Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Barry. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the whole situation with Barry. Obviously, we're already in him locked up and everything. And I love the cops' reaction, like, oh my god, this is the guy that was just on TV. Oh my god, almost like, oh man, we have such a big celebrity at our, our prison and stuff. And sad thing is, Barry is more alone than he's ever been because he's so isolated. He tried to call Jim and be like, hey, I did what, did you guys try to trick me? Did you and Jim, work together to trick me? It's like, no, I love you, Mr. Cousineau. And it's like, Barry, I got you. And it's just, because Barry loved Gene. Gene was kind of like the father. I guess you made the argument. He's always had these male figures in his life that were never a good influence for him. It's just like, obviously, Fuchs always put him in a position that he's in. And he looked up to Gene because it's like, you saw me as something more. You gave me kind of a new breath of life. Yes, I made mistakes, but I thought we moved past all that, which is like, are we kind of forgetting about the fact is you were kind of threatening him and blackmailing him, kind of forcing him to love you. It's not real. Once again, just showing you how messed up Barry is. This episode, once again, I literally wrote it in my nerd mode. Barry, the show will make you go like, man, you feel a little sympathetic. You feel sorry for Barry. I legitimately felt sorry for Barry. He would look like a lost puppy. Like he hit you with those puppy dog eyes. But you also got to remember, once again, Barry has murdered so many people, And sometimes, outside of just being the hitman, it's just like, hey, this wasn't it the season 2 finale when he literally murked everyone because he was trying to get Fuchs? So how funny how the turns have tabled. But either way, the fact is that Barry, felt so stupid for, trusting Gene. He calls up Sally. Sally wants nothing to do with him, which we'll get to Sally's side of things. But Barry's so alone. The two people who mean the most to him are, casting him aside. One helped put you in prison. The other one wants nothing to do with you, to never call her again. And it's like, especially for Barry in his mind, it's like, because I've done so much for you, I helped you out. Especially after your circumstances, which I'm sure that plays a role in what Sally's dealing with too. But either way, he's in the same prison as Fuchs, which I was like, is that where, I was curious last season where that was going to go. Now it's like, oh, Fuchs is like, hey, I could give you more on Barry, because he's like, I need protection. It's like, there's people here wanting to kill me. Barry wants to kill me. It's like, oh yeah, that's kind of what happens to everyone that gets put in prison. It might be around people that want him dead. So he was going to wear a wire and get him to confess to other stuff. I love how his approach. Hey Barry, you remember how you remember when you dealt with that guy so and so? How'd you go about doing that? He was being so blatant with it, but Barry just kind of, I don't know whether Barry just was numb to it all. Because right before that, he was watching the beginning of the series where he was watching Sally on the step rehearsing her lines, and then the whole team of I think it was Sasha, maybe Jermaine, and them over there, and then he sees Gene, and it's just almost like if I had just never bothered. And he just talks to Fuchs, it's like, right, you were right about Gene. If I had just never try to go to some acting class, trying to understand myself, neither one of us would be in this situation. I'm sorry. And for Fuchs, that's all he wanted to hear. Because all he's ever done is because he loves Barry. Because he feels like Barry betrayed him. It's like, no. I'm the one that helped you when you were when you were lost, you were alone after everything with the Marine situation, when you lost your cool and, not only killed the wrong person, but not only did I help you pick you up, I was there for you when no one else was, but you never appreciated me. In fact, you've tried to kill me. You end up putting me in prison. But for him, it's just there's this twisted dynamic they have. There's a sweetness to it at the end, but you also realize how jacked up it is, because it's both of us have this emptiness in us that we used each other to fill. Barry used Fuchs. Fuchs used Barry in that regard, where it's just because also Fuchs in his own way, in his own mind, does believe he was doing right by Barry, So for him, hearing that was kind of enough to be like, oh, I forgive you. That's all I wanted. I love you, Barry. There's a very Stockholm Syndrome-esque relationship there, almost like we kind of need each other, especially under the circumstances we are. So Barry's so upset with himself for being so stupid, it's like, oh, you're so stupid, you thought you were smart, you thought you got betrayed, you got used. And so a cop is talking about like, hey, I loved you in that TV show, and it's like, basically, hey, my mom said that, essentially the conversation is, you shouldn't be defined by your worst day, you should be defined by every other day. It was him kind of paraphrasing that notion. But, you know, it's like kind of a moot point when Barry's had a lot of bad days. When he's done despicable things over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, you know? Let's not forget the episode. Wasn't it last season they showed that episode where you had the episode of everyone he's ever killed? So yeah, I had to harp on that point because like I said, the show made me actually feel so bad for Barry. Like, he is a character you can sympathize with, but you have to rationally be like, nah, fuck Barry. You kind of have to get like that. But I'm also like, I also am the guy that roots for the bad guys. The Walter Whites, the Raymond Reddingtons of the world and stuff like that. Those are the Light Yagamis. I'm that guy either way. But I can still rationally be like, oh yeah, they all suck. I can even say, yo, Barry sucks. But I'm also kind of like, I'm actually kind of rooting for you. I hope you kind of get away with everything. I know, and once again, it's a commentary on me as a terrible human being, but I'm like, yeah, I can still recognize that, oh, they're terrible human beings, storytelling wise, and I kind of want them to get away with it. I don't know if Barry can. It's the end of the road for him, but we'll see. Because I definitely could see the trial stuff not going the way everyone's thinking it's going to go, because there's some curveballs that are going to be thrown. We've already kind of got to introduce to him, but yeah, Barry said everything he could to piss off that cop, because it's that thing of just like, I need to feel something other than what I'm feeling. Like, this is what I deserve. I hate, Barry already had like a lot of self-loathing to begin with, and so like he had that cop beat him up, and then it was that scene of him running, and it's just like, I guess like his dad or something calling out to him saying Barry. And wakes up, Fuchs is there, takes off the listening device, the wire, and just, it's like, hey, Barry, he's like, I'm sorry, too, like, I took advantage of you, you were in such a low position, and you were in a position when I grabbed you up, and I took advantage of you, and I put you in this position, I'm so sorry, and it's like, I love you, Barry, and like, they hug, and it's like I said, there's a sweetness to it that they end the episode off on, and I'm like, I'm so curious to see, because it's kind of us against the world, in that situation, because it's like, right, we're the only, like, at least neither one of them has to feel alone. It kind of works out for Barry, because like, oh, like everyone else, like the one person I cast away early on for this new life, my old life that included Fuchs that I cast away, that old life is all I have now because my new life has abandoned me. So that's really, really interesting. Let's go with the Gene situation. Obviously, he's gained a lot of recognition for what he did. But now it's like, yeah, you're going to testify against Barry. And it's like, yeah, he's ready to do that. Testify against the guy who threatened his family and everything. And obviously, like, he is kind of enjoying the success of everyone congratulating him. Which we also know Gene, he redeemed himself last season, like, made amends about how much of a dickwad he was. But the fact of the matter is, you can see him reveling in it. And then at the end, like, Jim's like, hey, they're going to try and take, how very poignant. It's always going to be a conversation, but I'm sure, like, the timing of it's even more interesting of, like, hey, they want to try and take Janice's story, and I don't want them to turn it into some, like, crap, like, movie or TV show or something like that. Which is, once again, the reason why I'm saying it's like a larger conversation, because that's kind of like the true crime drama, where it's like, genre, I said drama, the true crime genre, where real crimes are being adapted into movies and TV shows, and obviously that's had, like, I think there's always been that pushback for it, but it's even more so, like, more of a bigger thing now. So I don't know if that's almost a little bit of a commentary there. Also, it's just like, what Jim is saying is, like, anyone who's had someone they love involved in something that eventually got adapted into, or, like Hollywoodized into, like, a movie or TV show or whatever. Like, that's, I'm sure, I don't know how maybe a book is one thing, but kind of sensationalizing it as a movie or TV show is kind of another thing entirely, because it's like, hey, the book is here just giving you the facts and the truth of it, but I don't know how people who've been through those circumstances where those become true crime stories, like how they feel about even a novelized, like a novel or a book. Once again, the books are probably structured very differently than, like, once again, a televised show where you have actors playing people that were involved. It's a whole thing. Like I said, I feel like it's a larger conversation, which I think is so fascinating. But Jim is like, yeah, I don't want my daughters. And Gene's like, yeah, I know exactly what guy it is. He's like, oh, maybe you should take him to the garage. I mean, you were this close to my nose, and I practically shit myself. It's like, yeah, that's the guy. But we see later on Gene calls the guy, which I'm like, I was like, what did I just see that actor in? I was like, oh yeah, an episode of Quantum Leap. Once again, he's an actor you see pop up in anything, but he's the guy that was trying to get the story, and Gene's going to sell it. Which shows you, oh, Gene's still the self-centered bastard he's always been. Like, it's like, oh, you weren't a great person to begin with. You try to redeem yourself, but now you're feeling yourself because now you're in a position where people are like, hey, Gene, you're a hero. You're amazing what you did. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to tell you the story about how Gene Cousineau took down Barry Berkman. And it's like, even though you were just telling Jim, like, no, I was just following your script. So it's like, yeah, I guess that's what Gene's story is going to be. And I think that in itself is probably going to blow up Barry's case, because that's why Jim was like, we shouldn't talk to the press or the media, because if we do that, we're going to make, we might mess up, like, Janice's case with, Barry's case or whatever, which might be a thing. But the problem is, like I said, Gene's too much of a media whore. So I'm really interested to see where things kind of go on that front. Another element to the episode is we catch up with NoHo Hank and Cristobal. It's like, we're here in our paradise. It's like, oh, I'm Dorothy. No, I'm Dorothy. Okay, you're Dorothy. I'm the Tin Man, which I'm like, oh, that's really sweet. I don't know if that's a thing that happens in the books or the Wizard of Oz books or not. Maybe not. But I feel like stuff more recently has really leaned into like the whole Dorothy and Tin Man thing. Well, I don't know. Maybe, because I was like, wasn't that what they did in that show Emerald City? Because I recently referenced that, and I was like, weren't they setting that up like the Tin Man and Dorothy? I don't know if like there was what was it called? Oh, you just the Tin Man with it was like Alan Cumming, Zooey Deschanel, and Neil McDonough. I don't know. That was very just protective him, so I don't think it was leaning into the relationship stuff. But regardless, I'm going on a whole tangent. But it's him just kind of enjoying things. It's like, oh, we had the quiet life, and then the banging happened. You saw NoHo Hank like jump, and it's like he even has a nightmare about it. You're like, oh, Hank, no. It's like, despite, I mean, of course you'd have PTSD after that situation. I mean, that is a traumatic thing of like them laughing, the waiting, the hearing the screaming and the crunching of the tiger killing the people, like the people that work for you, and you never knowing when your time was coming. It was just nerve-wracking. And then in his dream he saw Barry, and it made him freak out. That he's like, all right, I need to call my best bud. I need to call my best friend Barry. Like, maybe he could help me out with all of this. But then he finds out, because he calls Barry, and someone else picks up his phone. I guess it's the cops, because his phone has to be in evidence or whatever. And it's like, who's this? Barry? So, no, this isn't Barry. He's like, who is this? Who is this? And NoHo Hank hangs up and immediately sees what happened to Barry, because they got it. Well, the person that was fixing their oven ended up telling them about, like, hey, we need sand or whatever to build homes. But not, like, regular sand. It has to be sand like, from very specific places, like, internationally. Import that sand to make houses. Well, because, like, the sand here in, like, the U.S. isn't good enough. It's probably low-grade sand, I guess, which I never would have thought that, but I mean, I guess, like, depending on places in the world, like, I'm sure a lot of materials that are, like, fine in one country are actually much better in another, just because of maybe, like, the conditions in that country, like, or whatever the case may be. But either way, Cristobal wants to use his international connections to try and import sand, and we can make a killing. I mean, no, Hank, you wanted a to be a boss. That's why you came here to LA in the first place. But Hank wasn't really about that, considering, like, well, the last situation we got mixed up in ended horribly because neither one of us have any more of our people. All of our men on both sides are dead. So we really don't have the infrastructure necessarily to do that. But the moment he found out about Barry, it made him go like, hey, let's do it. Let's go back to LA. So he wants to do what he can to probably help out his buddy, Barry. But it's also because like, hey, I'm going through something right now and I need my best bro to help me through it. And I don't know if that's going to cause issues when Cristobal finds out like, wait, is Barry the reason when you came back? Not for us? Could be an issue. So there's that. Then there's Sally's side of things where she gets off a plane after having her nightmare. If I'm not mistaken, that had to be the guy that she killed. Wasn't that in the season? Yeah, I think that was the season 3 finale when she killed home dude. But yeah, she's got nightmares about that. Then she gets off the plane. Everyone's texting and messaging her like, yo, did you hear about Barry? And she's like, no, I wasn't with Barry. Yes, you were with Barry. No, I wasn't. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And Lindsay's like, yo, Barry killed Jean's like girlfriend. And for her, it's like, oh crap, I was with him. Now it's like, now Sally's worried because it's like, I could get dragged into this, especially court-wise. They could subpoena her because she was with Barry when he like killed Janice. But to be fair, she was asleep. Like, Jean was there too, and he was unaware about what happened to Janice. Joe obviously later on. But then there's the thing of this for Sally. I'm sure she's scared that that's also going to drag her current circumstances into light. I'm sure like a lot of like her public freak out against Natalie and everything might kind of get used that in court could be used to get her to kind of discredit her and stuff like that. I don't know, man. I could definitely see like character witnesses for the witnesses type of situations. Like they could Barry's lawyer or whoever it may be could end up using like the Natalie situation against her to kind of discredit her as a witness or something. I don't know. But also, once again, more so than anything, Sally's also dealing with the fact is like, oh, I murdered someone and Barry was there to comfort me and help me, but now I'm like, oh, you're a liar, you're this and that. It's like they've always had this tumultuous relationship. Once again, kind of, I said Barry and Fuchs, but it's kind of a lot of the core cast. Everyone's kind of finding something in each other that fills some void in themselves. Like, Sally has her, like, shallow narcissistic side of herself, but she also can be sweet, and obviously she can be lovely, but she can also be very full of herself. So it's like everyone kind of gets something from someone else, And so it is kind of like oh crap, I can't breathe. And her mom is kind of like, yeah, can I get that blah, 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 blah. And for Sally, it's like, Mom, I'm freaking out here. I just told you that the guy that I was dating killed my acting teacher's girlfriend. And you're not phased. The moment she got home, like, it's just not even her room anymore. Like, all her stuff has been peeled. All that's left is a little bit of a, like, rainbow sticker, maybe like a unicorn on the wall, because her dad made it his man cave. So she's underneath his desk, like, it's like, right, she's freaking out. It's like, did Mom tell you about my boyfriend situation? It's like, oh, yeah, she told me. But it's like, hey, let's go watch that show of yours. It's like, which that's also sucky of you to do that, because it's like, considering the show got canceled immediately, once again, because of an algorithm. Once again, there's so many layers to that conversation. But yeah, like, it's going to be a sore spot. And then when she has to sit there and have her mom criticize her work by being like, but you don't have a daughter. It's like, Mom, it's a story. I'm taking liberties with it. But it's like, oh, wait, you said Sam's name? It's like, well, yeah. There's fake stuff like, yeah, I'm not a parent, but I did use what Sam used. She's like, oh, I can't believe you used it. It's like, that's what you're focusing on? Mom, he put his hands around me and was going to choke me. It's like, now I go to church with his mom and everything. And then she's like, Mom, I need your help. It's like, don't scream. I'm not fucking screaming at you. It's like, ooh, boy. It's like, wow. So lovely to be home with everything I'm going through. And her dad's trying to help. It's just like, it seems like her dad's a little more supportive than her mom is, at the very least. Her dad is trying to be helpful. Like, hey, you can work a little bit with me, kind of get your head out of all this, kind of get away from all of it. Once again, I don't think she's going to be able to fully do that. But it's like, I don't think she's going to be able to stay there with her parents, specifically around her mom, especially the way her mom's kind of acting with all of this situation. So it's definitely going to be interesting. To kind of dive into Sally a little bit more of her what she's like around her parents, because I think I was reading something really I glimpsed at something online that was kind of saying like, right, this season obviously is going to lean more into its like supporting cast. Like, obviously, you're going to probably, like, check in with Barry, but, you know, there's so much story you can really talk about with Barry, considering he's been... And I think that's also the thing of, like, the Barry hole that's in everyone's life, for better and for worse, like, how everyone else deals with the aftermath of all this. I mean, I'm curious, like, too, like, he was staying with Jermaine and everything. I'm like, how does that play out for you when your one of your roommates, like, got, like, busted, like, you know, so... I'm curious to really kind of see, like, everyone's aftermath with this, but I'm sure we're going to pop in with Fuchs and Barry in prison and obviously probably, like, lean into Barry's case, but I'm so curious to see, you know, what, like, the aftermath of all this, how this affects so many other people's stories. Seems to be, like, what this final season is really going to probably lean into a lot. I'm basing that on something I saw that says, like, right, the story kind of they're kind of Naruto Shippuden ding this, whereas, like, hey, as Naruto went on, the series focused more and more on, like, the other characters. And, yes, it still focuses on Naruto. He's still your title character, still your main character, but it focuses on the other characters now. A little bit more, give them more screen time, give them story, stuff like that. So, either way, there is one more episode out. They dropped 2 episodes this week, but every other week is subsequently going to be 1. I wonder, because of the way this episode was done, I wonder, did it go like, no, we need to go ahead and release 2 just to kind of, I don't know. I'll have to watch the second episode and see how it acts as a companion with this episode that was released. So, but after this, it's going to be 1 a week until the show is done. So, I'm very excited to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into episode 2. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.